everybody, welcome to another Crack a Pack Tuesday on the Mana League. I'm John, as always, and we've got ourselves another pack of Dragons of Tarkir to crack on open. So we're going to open this up, and we're going to see what we would take. Pack one, pick one. So up first, we've got ourselves a Scream Reach Brawler. That's a 2 and a red 2/3 that you can dash for 2. And that's about it. Totally fine in the dash deck, I think. Not a first pick in any way, shape, or form, but something I'd pick up a fair bit later if I knew I was going to be red, and especially if I was going to be the dash deck, if I had Warbringer or Ambuscade Shaman or any of those enablers. Next up, we've got a Resupply. Resupply is awful. Don't ever take this card unless you're just going to rip it up. It's 5 and a white for an instant that gets you 6 life and a card. This is not worth a card, unfortunately. You should never, ever, 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 ever play this in draft sealed or any format ever, I would have to say. Next up, we've got Grave Purge. Grave Purge is a 2 and a black instant. You get to put any number. That number can be 0. Very important. You can put any number of target creature cards from your graveyard on top of your library and then draw a card. So you generally know what you're going to be drawing. You're going to put the creature that you really want back on top of your library. I have played this just as a cycle. I have paid 3 to just turn this into another card because you can choose 0 creatures. That's a desperation move. You're never going to take this card intending to do that, but that option is there if you need an out, if you need a way to dig just a little bit further. Ultimately, this card just hasn't impressed me that much, and it didn't really impress me that much back in Avacyn Restored when it was first printed. Might have been Dark Ascension, actually. I can't remember offhand. But yeah, just not a huge fan of this. Definitely not a first pick. Next up, we've got Hardened Berserker. This is a 2 and a red 3/2 creature, and whenever Hardened Berserker attacks, the next spell you cast this turn costs 1 less to cast. That sounds awesome. I love that text, and it sounds like it should be great, but it just hasn't really done that much for me. 1 less to cast just doesn't tend to ramp you all that much, especially since you have to attack this guy quite probably into its death. It is just 2 toughness, which means that almost anything that your opponent played on turn 3 and sometimes on turn 2 is just going to block and kill this guy just for 1 little mana discount. Not a huge fan of this. I'll pick it up late if it's around and I'm going to be red, but I'm not going to first pick this at all. Next up, we have Monastery Loremaster. This is a 3 and a blue 3/2. And it has Megamorph. So you can morph this down for 3, and then you can pay 5 and a blue to make this into a 4/2. It also has some additional text. When it is turned face up, return target non-creature, non-land card from your graveyard to your hand. So you're going to get back an instant or a sorcery, maybe an artifact, I guess, or an enchantment, but probably an instant or sorcery in most drafts. Yeah, this guy's okay. He's totally fine as a morph. Morphs are generally playable, and when he on-morphs, he is a 4/2. You pay a fair bit to get that 4/2. 6 mana for 4/3. 6 mana for a 4/3 isn't super awesome, but it's totally okay. I've just never really gotten the second part of this card to really get much for me. I've gotten 1 or 2 cool things back, but I find so often I just don't get anything back off this guy or anything that I really want. Not a big fan of this. I would take it late if I'm going to be blue, but that's about it. Next up, we've got Servant of the Scale. This is a single green mana for a 0/0, but when it enters the battlefield, it does get a +1/+1 counter on it, so it's a 1/1 for 1. And when it dies, you can put +1/+1 counters on target creature equal to the number of counters that were on this guy. The trick here, of course, is you want to bolster this guy and make him bigger and get 4 or 5 counters on it, and then when somebody kills it, those counters just get to go onto something else. But that's living the dream, and I've almost never seen that dream happen. I've seen a counter get on this guy. I don't think I've seen more than 1 get on this guy, though, so not a big fan of this. This is typically just a 1/1 for 1 that gets you a little tiny bit of value when it dies. Not something I really want to pick, and not something I ever really want to play. I would cut this almost every single time. I'd have to be really desperate to play it. Next up, we've got Sprinting Warbrute. This is a 4 and a red 5/4. It must attack each turn if able, and you can dash it for 4. And that's the trick to this guy. Dashing a 5/4 for 4 is fantastic. Yeah, it has to attack, but if you dashed it, you're probably planning on attacking anyways. This guy is a beast. He's huge. In the dash deck, he becomes insane if he only costs 2 to dash out because of Warbringer. If you have Ambuscade Shaman down and this becomes a 7/6, it becomes backbreaking. I really like this guy in an aggressive red deck, especially in the dash deck. But again, not a huge high pick. I don't want to be picking this guy hoping I get a Warbringer or an Ambuscade Shaman. So this guy is going to be more of a mid-pack kind of pick to me. But I do like it. Hopefully the pack strengthens up a little bit. Next up, we've got a Stampeding Elk Herd. This is a 3/3/5/5 that has Formidable. When Stampeding Elk Herd attacks, if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. This is pretty good. I, for some reason, often misread this and think that its target creature gets trample, but it's your entire team. And that's pretty darn good, especially in green where you're going to have big, beefy guys. This is a totally okay card. I'd probably play it most of the time that I'm in green, but it's not something I really want to look to pick, especially first pick. Next up, we've got Custodian of the Trove. This is a 3-mana 2/5 defender, and Custodian of the Trove enters the battlefield tapped. Not good, unfortunately. This is way too slow. You would have to be the most controlling of decks to ever want to play this. You're going to play this to try to hold off an army of morphs or little drops, but he's going to get outclassed fairly quickly, and if your opponent goes wide, then this guy just doesn't do much of anything. I don't ever really want to play this guy, so yeah, not going to pick him at all. Now we've got a good card. We've got Vulture's Aven. This is a 3-and-a-black 2/3 flyer with Exploit, and when Vulture's Aven exploits a creature, you draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life, so you get to Sign and Blood yourself. This card's fantastic. The 2-card draw is amazing, and that's if it sacrifices just a random creature, or maybe even itself. If you get to sacrifice something with an exit the battlefield effect, Shambling Goblin, or a Youthful Scholar, or anything like that, this guy is broken. I love this card so much. I could see myself first picking it, absolutely. And the fact that as long as you don't exploit itself, you're left with a 2/3 flyer is pretty darn good. I'm a huge fan of Vulture's Haven. Next up, we've got Swift Warkite. This is a 4-black-red dragon. It's a 4/4 flyer. And when it enters the battlefield, you may put a creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your hand or your graveyard onto the battlefield. That card gains haste. Return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. So this comes down and you have a 4/4 flyer. And then you get to play a creature card from your hand for free, or you get to return one from the graveyard to the battlefield for free. It gets haste, so it can attack, and then it comes back to your hand at the end of turn. Obviously, that's much better if you're returning a creature from the graveyard, because then you're going to get that creature back. You're going to be able to recast it. It's less good to just play one from your hand. Ultimately, however, you are getting a 3/2 or 1-drop on turn 6 at a minimum, and those creatures tend to be pretty outclassed by turn 6, if not later. So I haven't been super impressed by that ability. The fact that this is a 4/4 flyer is just, that's good right there. But it is expensive. You are paying 6 mana for that 4/4 flyer because of that extra creature ability. Ultimately, I'm okay with this card, and I would take it pack 2 if I was pretty heavily leaning black-red, but I would never first pick it, and I wouldn't highly pick it to put myself into black-red. I'm just not a big fan of most of the uncommon dragons, as I've talked about at length. Next up, we've got the exact opposite. We've got Dragon Hunter. It's a single white for a 2/1, has protection from dragons, and Dragon Hunter can block dragons as though it had reach. I'm pretty happy with this card. It's just as a 1-drop 2/1. Single white mana 2/1s are generally pretty solid. They're just super aggressive. They're going to put you down a path where you're going to beat your opponent down very, very, very quickly. The Pro Dragons thing is cool, but I think people are starting to realize that although this is Dragons of Tarkir, the dragons just aren't around all that much in draft because most of them aren't good. I don't think you're taking this guy as a dragon killer. You're taking this guy as a 2/1 that's just going to beat your opponent down. And for that, I'm pretty happy with it. Now we've got another uncommon dragon. We've got the Acid Spewer Dragon. This is the Megamorph cycle. It's 5 and a black, but you can morph it. and then you can Megamorph it for 5 black. It's a 3/3. If you Megamorph it, it's a 4/4. It has Flying, Death Touch, and when Acid Spewer Dragon is turned face up, you can put, you must put, a +1/+1 counter on each other dragon you control. Well, we just talked about how you're not going to have that many dragons, so this probably isn't really going to trigger. That being said, I did in, can't remember what draft it was. I think it was maybe Wacky Wednesday, which should say something. I actually got to get that ability to do something off these Megamorph dragons. It actually put a counter on another dragon. Still didn't do very much, and that's kind of living the dream, and that's not going to happen terribly often. Yeah, I mean, these dragons are okay because they are morphs. You can just play them down as 2/2s, and if you get them to flip up, cool. But I'm not really going to be, straining myself to take these or going down. I'm not going to go black because I opened this Acid Spear Dragon. Our rare is a dragon as well, and it's a pretty darn good one. It's Icefall Regent. It's a 3 blue dragon for a 4/3. It has Flying. When it enters the battlefield, you get to tap target creature an opponent controls, and it doesn't on-tap as long as Icefall Regent exists. As long as you control it. Plus, because it needed more, spells your opponent's cast that target Icefall Regent cost 2 more to cast. So it's got a mini Frost Titan sort of ability on it for itself. This card's awesome. This is one of those great dragons. So for as kind of mediocre as the uncommon dragons are, the rare ones and the mythic ones are generally amazing. And this is one I would love to open and love to see. 5 mana for a 4/3 flyer is pretty darn good right there. Basically, removal is awesome, and it protects itself. That is just every sort of box checked in is this creature a bomb? And pretty happy to see that. That's probably going to be the first pick, but let's see. Maybe we take the forest. We don't. Yeah, we've got a token down here. So this was a pretty weak pack up until the end. For a while there, I was thinking Vulturous Aven was going to be the go-to, but then we opened the Icefall Regent, and Icefall Regent is very solidly the pick for this pack. It's awesome. I'm going to go blue. I'm going to go slightly control-y, make sure that I can get this guy out, and then just take over the game with an awesome big flyer and whatever else I happen to have. So hopefully you enjoyed that video. Definitely let me know what you would have picked. I feel like this might have been a little bit of a clear-cut pack. But if you have an argument for any of the other cards, let me know. I love seeing people's picks on the packs that I've opened when I've made my pick, because I love to see the discussion and the other opinions, of course. As always, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, you can let me know in the comments as well. You should also find me on Twitter at The Mana Leak. That's LEEK, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/The Mana Leak. You've already found me here on YouTube. If you like the videos, make sure you click those little thumbs up icons. As well, you should subscribe to my channel. There's a button below the video, and there's a button in the outro of each video. That'll keep you up to date on all the latest videos, the latest Crack-A-Pack Tuesdays, Wacky Wednesdays, Spiky Saturdays, Crack-A-Pack specials, and any other videos that may pop up here or there. I have a few things planned in the future. But yeah, as always, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time.